Hi everyone and welcome to Tech Cravers. Today I'm thrilled to share some exciting news with you. On Monday, on July 22nd to be exact, the much anticipated ROG Ally X will finally be available in retail stores. ASUS was incredibly generous to send me a review unit ahead of the release, and I've had the pleasure of using it extensively over the past few weeks. Now, let me tell you this, my first impressions are highly positive. The ROG Ally X stands out with its sleek design, robust performance and impressive features, and in this video I'll be diving into my first impression experiences with this device, discussing its standout attributes and sharing why I think it's poised to make a significant impact on the handheld market. Whether you're a hardcore gamer looking for a new handheld powerhouse or someone interested in the latest tech innovations, you don't want to miss this first impressions video. I'll cover everything from its build quality to its gaming performance, ensuring that you get a comprehensive look at what the ROG Ally X brings to the table. So sit back, relax and join me as we explore what to expect of the ROG Ally X. When the ROG Ally launched about a year ago, it made quite an impact. It wasn't just seen as the first real competitor to Valve's Steam Deck, but it also gave the Steam Deck a serious challenge in terms of performance. Although the wizards at Steam managed to deliver impressive performance at lower TDP levels than the ROG Ally accomplished feats we never thought we'd see from a handheld device. However, it definitely had its share of issues. The relatively weak battery, with only 40 kilowatts for such a large device, limited gameplay to about 1 or 1.5 hours, depending on the game. This naturally caused problems for longer flights and other situations where charging opportunities were scarce. But that wasn't the only problem. The biggest flop, without a doubt, was that the ROG Ally frequently melted SD cards and card readers. Thermal stress, which ASUS eventually acknowledged as a hardware-related design flaw, caused the card readers and memory cards to be damaged permanently. For me personally, it never was a huge issue though, because we have strong consumer protection laws in Sweden, which meant I received a replacement directly from the retailer when my first ROG Ally broke down. Ironically though, my second ROG Ally has just been sent in for repair for the same issue, so I currently don't have one on hand to compare with this upgraded version. Speaking of that, you shouldn't view the Ally X as the successor to the ROG Ally, but rather as an enhanced version of it. Much like Valve's sentiment when they released the Steam Deck OLED, calling it the Steam Deck they've had envisioned from the start, I believe ASUS has done something similar here. They've gathered extensive feedback from both tech reviewers and the ROG Ally community to create a superior version, the ROG Ally as they intended it to be from the beginning. And the new Ally X boasts several impressive upgrades. First of all, it features double the battery capacity at 80 Wh, all while maintaining a similar weight. The system memory has increased by 50% to 24 GB, with the LPDDR memory now running 17% faster at 7500 MTs per sec. These memory enhancements contribute to up to 15% higher performance, noticeable in games like Cyberpunk 2077 and Forza Horizon 5. The device also benefits from a 20 to 30% higher TDP in silent and performance modes, allowing for additional performance boosts. Gaming at 25 watt is now more efficient, and paired with that bigger battery, you can now play for longer sessions in 25 watt than you could on 15 watt on the original Ally. Thermal management has been improved with a thicker heat pipe, better fans, larger air intake vents, an additional airflow channel and a third exhaust vent. These changes makes the device 5 dB quieter in turbo and performance modes, with panel temperatures up to 6 degrees lower and SoC temperatures up to 8 degrees lower. Storage has also been enhanced with a full-size Gen 4 2280 SSD slot, double the storage at 1 TB by default, and support for up to 8 TB SSDs. The addition of a second USB-C port, specifically a USB 4 port with 40 GB transfer speed and Thunderbolt eGPU support, is a notable upgrade as well. The controls have seen improvements as well, with better AXBY buttons, premium ALPS joysticks with a 2.5x longer lifetime and an additional Hall effect joystick upgrade kit. The D-pad, triggers, bumpers, shoulder buttons, macro paddles and haptic feedback have all been refined. The device now also features a lower minimum nit setting for gaming in the dark and louder, punchier speakers that definitely will enhance your gaming experience. Additionally, a host of quality of life improvements and new features come with Armory Crate SC version 1.5, which is also available for the original ROG Ally, but more on that later. Because now it's time to talk about my first impressions of the ergonomics. The ROG Ally X is by no means an uncomfortable handheld, but ASUS has marketed better ergonomics and larger grip handles as part of the ROG Ally X refinements. I'm not entirely sure I understand what's better ergonomically, at least in terms of grip comfort. They've also tweaked the locations of the joystick relative to the D-pad and face buttons, so that might be what they mean by more ergonomic. It is indeed easy to reach between the buttons, but in terms of grip, I remember finding the original ROG Ally more naturally fitting in my hands. This might just be my perception, and since my ROG Ally is currently being replaced, I can't compare them directly. However, that's my feeling holding the ROG Ally X right now. I might be nitpicking though. One thing that's absolutely clear, however, is that despite its larger grips, the ROG Ally X still falls short in terms of grip comfort compared to the Steam Deck OLED. My pinky fingers have no trouble fitting comfortable at the bottom of my Steam Deck OLED, whereas they tend to slip under the device when I'm holding the ROG Ally X. Once again, not a huge issue, but I still think that you should be aware of it. Additionally, I should mention that the ROG Ally X is significantly thicker at its thinnest point compared to the Steam Deck OLED. This is mainly because ASUS has managed to fit in a battery that's twice as large this time around. However, this doesn't bother me much since ASUS has managed to keep the weight down, and it actually weighs only about 50 grams more than the Steam Deck OLED this time. If I remember correctly, the original ROG Ally weighed about 30 grams less than the Steam Deck OLED. But all three handhelds fall within the acceptable ranges to be considered light and comfortable to hold, in my opinion. It's only when devices start to weigh as much as the Lenovo Legion Go and similar models that it becomes worth considering a laptop instead, but that's my personal opinion. Before we dive into what ASUS have refined with Armory Crate, let's quickly summarize the hardware differences between the ROG Ally and the ROG Ally X. The ROG Ally X features double the battery capacity at 80 Wh compared to 40 Wh on the ROG Ally. Storage is upgraded to 1TB PCIe 4.0 NVMe 2280 from 512GB PCIe 4.0 NVMe 2230. It also has more and faster RAM with 24GB of LPDDR5X 7500 megatransfers compared to 16GB of LPDDR5 6400 megatransfers in the original Ally. In terms of ergonomics, the ROG Ally X has a black chassis with bigger grips, while the ROG Ally has a white chassis. The joysticks on the Ally X are rated for 5 million cycles with tighter springs, whereas the Ally's joysticks are rated for 2 million cycles. The D-pad has been improved to 8-way indicators from the 4-way indicators on the Ally, perfect for fighting games. Additionally, the face buttons on the ROG Ally X has improved tactility, and the macro buttons are now smaller rear buttons compared to the larger ones on the Ally. For I/O, the ROG Ally X includes an additional USB Type-C USB 4 port along with the standard USB Type-C 10GB port and UHS 2 microSD card reader. But the XG mobile port has been removed entirely, which means you won't be able to connect ASUS' own external graphics card solution, which is a bit odd. However, it did free up enough space for the additional USB 4 port I mentioned earlier. With this port you can connect any compatible eGPU anyway, so well done ASUS. The speakers are upgraded to louder front-facing stereo speakers this time, and cooling has been enhanced with an improved zero-gravity cooling system that includes dual 77-blade fans and more ventilation compared to the dual 47-blade fans in the Ally. Finally, the maximum charging speed on the Ally X is 100 watts compared to 65 watts on the original Ally. It's still a 65-watt charger included though. Okay, now that we know the differences between the ROG Ally and the Ally X, it's time to look at what the new Armory Crate SE version 1.5 give us. At first glance, it might seem like these versions are quite similar, but ASUS has really worked on creating a more console-like and flexible all-around solution with version 1.5. Let me talk you through some of those improvements. First off, we can now tweak much more of the appearance of Armory Crate's front end than we could before. By pressing the equivalent of the select button here on the left, we bring up this menu. From here we can choose Customize Library. And from this menu we can then change more or less exactly how we want our games to be presented. We can choose to scroll horizontally or vertically, adjust the size of the cover art, decide whether or not to display titles, and much more. We can also control the degree of blur for background images, or how bright said background images should be. You can of course also change the box art for each individual game. There are several preset options for you to choose from, but you can also upload your own custom images if you prefer that. Everything is customizable to suit your personal preferences. Now, if you go to settings represented by the small gear icon, you can find that this area has also been refined in this version. There are more options available and it's more user-friendly than before. If you didn't already know, you can access the command center for both ROG Ally and ROG Ally X through the dedicated button to the left of the screen, below the select button. This command center essentially provides a range of quick access buttons or hotkeys that you can use whenever you need. For example, you can switch operating modes, change game profiles or controllers, or handle more Windows-related tasks like showing the desktop or ending a task. And from the Edit Command Center option here to the right, you can easily choose which hotkeys or shortcut you want to include in your command center. One of the biggest improvements with this version of Armory Crate though is the Update Center. From this menu you can now download all your ASUS related updates, effectively saying goodbye to the My ASUS app that we previously needed. The regular and occasional Windows updates needs to be downloaded from the Windows Update Center as usual though. If we head into the Performance tab, we can switch between the different performance modes of the Ally X. While you can also change these modes directly from the Command Center menu I showed you earlier, here you can see in more detail what each mode does to the hardware in terms of clock speeds. You can also create your own custom performance settings if you wish. The different preset modes are Silent, which provide 13W TDP, Performance, which gives 17W TDP, and Turbo, which offers 25W TDP. With the power adapter plugged in, there's also an additional mode that provides 30W TDP, which only activates when connected to the charger. Under Echo Assist, you have a few options related to standby mode and battery saving. You can, for example, set it up so the screen turns off when you hit the power button instead of the handheld going into standby. Personally, I haven't tinkered too much with these settings as I usually put it to sleep only when I'm not going to use it for an extended period. And most of the time I leave it plugged in when I do this. Under GPU settings, we have options related to the GPU. The most important one is probably the option at the top, where we can decide how much memory that should be assigned to the GPU. So yeah, that was just a quick look at the new Armory Crate version 1.5. Overall, as I mentioned, it's more flexible, sleeker and more intuitive than ever before. And with that said, we're reaching the end of my first impressions video of the ROG Ally X after using it for a couple of weeks. There's a lot I know that I'm not allowed to talk about, and quite a bit I'm unsure if I can mention in this video since the review embargo lifts on Monday when the ROG Ally X becomes available in stores. Therefore, this video contains fewer personal test results than I'd like and more of what ASUS claims based on their tests. But let me summarize these weeks by saying that I'm more impressed with the ROG Ally X than I thought I would be. This is definitely the ROG Ally I wish they had released last year instead. Is it worth the price if I already own a ROG Ally? Both yes and no. If you have the budget, this is a significantly better handheld than the ROG Ally in my opinion. However, I don't think it's necessarily worth the price if you're on a tight budget and already own a ROG Ally. That said, in my opinion, it's definitely worth it if you can sell your ROG Ally on the second-hand market and use the funds to upgrade to the Ally X. Thanks a lot for sitting through this video. Don't forget to give the video a like if you enjoyed watching it and comment down below what you think of the ROG Ally X. Are you planning to pick it up or are you happy with your current handhelds? Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more content about the ROG Ally X in the future and more content similar to this one. Catch you in the next one. Tech Cravers out.